Good afternoon, everybody. Tony Miano here with Cross Encounters Radio with Open Air Quick Tip number 6. Acknowledge law enforcement. That's right. Acknowledge law enforcement. Something I always try to do. If I see law enforcement in the area where I'm open air preaching, if they've stopped to listen to what's going on, or if they're dealing with another situation somewhere close by, or they just happen to be passing through, I'll stop what I'm talking about. I'll stop what I'm doing, and I'll acknowledge those officers, not to embarrass them, not in a corny way, but I might say something like, "Hey, officers, I want to thank you for what you do. It's because you're out here protecting and serving that someone like me can stand on the box and exercise their free speech without fear of reprisals, unlike in many places around the world." And then I might share some statistics about law enforcement. Every 57 hours, a man or woman behind the badge gives their life in the line of duty. It's a difficult job. It's often a thankless job. And so when you see a police officer, thank them for what they do. This does a couple of different things. One, it lets law enforcement know that you're not afraid of their presence. Oftentimes, people who act nervous and seem timid or afraid in the presence of a police officer, if the police officer is picking up on that, they're not thinking that you're just afraid. They're thinking that there's something wrong with you, that you're up to no good, that you have a warrant, that you have dope in your pocket, that you might be carrying a gun. That's the way officers think. They're constantly trying to read people to see if they are up to no good. And so by acknowledging the officer's presence, you're telling the officer in the crowd right away that you're not afraid of law enforcement. And the second thing is that by showing them respect and acknowledging them, you are actually building a rapport with those officers. There are some open air preachers out there who are just looking for a conflict with law enforcement. They're ignorant and they should be off the streets. It's easy to get yourself into the back seat of a patrol car. It's a lot more difficult to talk your way out. And if people are out there looking for conflict with law enforcement, that's their intent, that's one of the purposes they have for going out there, well, then their motives aren't pure and they shouldn't be out there proclaiming the gospel. Now, granted, it's getting to the point now where contact with law enforcement is almost unavoidable, and things do seem to be escalating. Officers are making some pretty bad decisions out there regarding open-air preachers and street evangelists in general. But that doesn't change the fact that we are to submit to the governing authorities, and by showing officers respect, acknowledging their presence, you're telling them in the world, "I'm not afraid of you, and I appreciate what you do." And over time, as you establish rapport with officers in your area, and someone that comes to mind immediately is Bobby McCreary down in Athens, Georgia, who has a good working relationship with the police officers in that area. Over time, you're going to establish a rapport, and you're going to find that life is easier for you out there on the streets in your favorite fishing hole. And that is Open Air Quick Tip number 6.